If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. This story begins with a lie. A small, seemingly harmless deception that spiraled out of control, growing into a monster I could no longer contain. My name is Emily, and this is the story of how I betrayed the person I loved the most, the consequences that followed, and the long road to redemption. I met Jake during our sophomore year of college. He was kind, funny, and had this effortless way of making me feel like the only person in the room. We fell in love quickly, and for years our relationship felt like a dream come true. But as time passed, the cracks started to appear. We grew comfortable, maybe too comfortable. The passion that once burned so brightly between us began to fade. Then came Alex, coworker, charismatic, confident, and radiating an energy that pulled me in. At first, it was harmless, just casual conversations during work breaks, playful banter at office gatherings. But those exchanges soon turned into late-night messages, secret moments that blurred the line between friendship and something more. I convinced myself it wasn't cheating. After all, nothing physical had happened. But deep down I knew the truth. I was emotionally invested in someone who wasn't Jake, and that was just as much a betrayal. Then, one night, after a heated argument with Jake, I made the worst decision of my life. In frustration, I called Alex. He invited me over. I told myself I just needed someone to talk to, but the moment I stepped inside his apartment, I knew I was lying to myself. One thing led to another, and I crossed a line I could never undo. Guilt hit me like a tidal wave the moment it was over. I felt sick, disgusted with myself. But instead of confessing, I buried the truth, convincing myself it was a one-time mistake, something I could forget and move past. But secrets have a way of surfacing. A few weeks later, Jake found out. A message from Alex popped up on my phone, and when Jake confronted me, I couldn't lie anymore. The look in his eyes shattered me. Pain, anger, disbelief. I had destroyed his trust, and I knew there was no going back. We tried to fix things, but the damage was too deep. Every time he looked at me, I saw the hurt reflected back. The guilt consumed me. Eventually, Jake ended it. He told me he still loved me, but he couldn't be with someone he no longer trusted. And I didn't blame him. Losing Jake was the hardest thing I had ever endured. I had taken him for granted, and now he was gone. I spiraled into depression, drowning in regret. I cut ties with Alex, realizing he was never worth losing Jake over. But that didn't undo the damage. I knew I had to face what I had done. I started therapy, desperate to understand why I had made such a terrible choice. Hours of self-reflection led me to a painful realization. My betrayal wasn't just about Alex or the fading spark with Jake. It was about my own insecurities, my fear of vulnerability, my need for validation in all the wrong places. Redemption didn't happen overnight. It took months of self-work, self-forgiveness, and a deep commitment to change. I reached out to Jake, not to ask for another chance but to apologize. He deserved that. To my surprise, he thanked me for owning up to my mistakes, but he made it clear. He had moved on. At first, his words stung, but over time, I realized they were a gift. They forced me to confront my flaws and truly grow. So I did. I focused on becoming a better person, someone I could be proud of. I rebuilt my life one step at a time, and slowly I began to heal. It has been 3 years since that dark chapter of my life. While I still carry the weight of my mistakes, I use them as a reminder of the person I never want to be again. Today, I'm in a healthier relationship, one built on trust, honesty, and respect. But more importantly, I've learned to love myself, to be accountable for my actions, and to never take trust for granted again. Cheating was the worst decision I ever made, but it taught me the most valuable lesson of my life. True love requires honesty, vulnerability, and the willingness to put in the hard work, even when it's uncomfortable. If there's one thing I hope others take from my story, it's this. If you're unhappy in your relationship, don't run away. Face it. Communicate. And if it's beyond repair, have the courage to walk away before making a choice you'll regret. Trust is fragile. Once broken, it's nearly impossible to rebuild. This is my story, one of heartbreak, betrayal, and ultimately redemption. I'm not proud of the choices I made, but I am grateful for the lessons they taught me. I can't change the past, but I can choose to be better every single day.